So since I've actually been playing disc golf for a little while now, not as long as some other people, but a good amount of time, I thought it might be interesting to go over some of my collection that I've acquired over the past many years. I also have some wall discs over here behind my computer. I've definitely acquired some interesting things, a little bit of that's sentimental to me, some other things that are just generally interesting. I think it'd be kind of cool to go over some of the highlights within the collection and also kind of go over like how I got my start with collecting discs, playing disc golf and all that stuff, because it's actually kind of interesting and I even misremembered it a little bit. Now, before I get into all of that, on this chair, this old desk chair behind me, I have a stack of discs, including the MVP Gyropalooza box that I used in my video I made about a month ago. And I'm gonna be getting rid of all of these discs in some mystery boxes, which are gonna go into these boxes right here. It's gonna be 5 discs per box with maybe some extra little goodies and stickers in there as well. They're gonna be all premium discs, all stuff that I've bagged, that I've done for video reviews. I'd say around 80% of it though is stuff that I've bagged or had the intention of throwing. So this is all good stuff, high quality plastic, some used, some brand new, all loved. So if you want to get your hands on that, you can go to tylertd.com where you can pick that up. And if you're a local, you can buy disc golf lessons on there as well. And at the end of the video, I'll kind of go over one of the boxes here and show you what a sample box might look like. So stick around to the end of the video if you want to see that. So when it comes to my disc golf collection, it turns out I think I bought my first disc way back in, I want to say around May of 2018. And I bought my second disc in, I think, August of 2018, around that time. I thought I had bought them later on, like in 2020 or 2021 when I had bought a bunch of discs, but I totally forgot about these other ones that I bought. And actually, I think I even had some discs before that. Back in 2015, I was trying to maybe get into disc golf right before I went to college, and I was given this bag right here. I bought it for 30 bucks, and my cousin stocked it full of a bunch of random discs, mostly DX discs and other stuff that he fished out of Ellicott Creek Park in Buffalo. I have some of them still, but not really many of those anymore because those really weren't that sentimental to me. However, the first disc I remember getting, and this is a disc on my wall that I don't throw anymore, is a 4-time champion Thunderbird. This was gifted to me as a Christmas gift. I want to say back in around probably that 2017, 2018 timeframe. I can't remember if it was before or after I bought the other disc that I owned, but I had a relative that knew I was getting into disc golf a little bit. I mostly played Ultimate at this time, so wasn't really playing that much, but gifted me this disc. And at the time, it was the most overstable disc I had ever thrown, and it was basically, in my mind, like a brand new flat top Firebird. Yeah, this is actually pretty flippy for me now. It's gotten beaten up quite a bit and is like a nice hyzer flip Thunderbird that sits on my wall because I never want to lose it. Sometime after that, I recall buying some DX discs to throw around with because I remember when I think I was using Infinite Discs at the time. I used their website and I didn't really understand it very well because, let's be honest, their UI isn't necessarily the best. And I basically didn't understand what different plastics were or what they even meant. So I just found discs that people said were cool and bought them, and I bought the cheapest ones because they were in the cheapest plastic. That was pretty much it. I was like, oh, I can save like $3 for buying this one instead of that one. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. I have this red DX Valkyrie that I threw all the time. This is like the first disc I ever learned to throw rollers on as well because it became so flippy. But I threw this thing all over the place, and this beast right here. And interestingly enough, the time when I was doing this, the only course I ever played on when I was using any of these discs that I had, like these 3, was on a 9-hole course at my college that I went to, SUNY Geneseo. It was no tee pads, just grass pads with little markers in the ground and really old, I want to say maybe like Chain Star baskets. I don't really know. They're old baskets though. It was years until I played my first like real disc golf course. I had some other ones in that mix, but really these 3 were kind of the stars of the show. I actually did have an AVR somewhere, which I think is down in my garage, but there was also an AVR I was putting with as well. Actually, one of the first discs I ever putted with, I remember buying this because I literally found a Reddit thread where someone said it was cool, was a Classic Blend Judge, which I now gave to my girlfriend and that's sitting in her bag. Honestly, still in decent condition. I'm gonna take you over to the wall now, and I'll show you one of the first discs I ever really bought and like really loved, and that would be this guy right here. Sorry, I'm pointing backwards. This is a nice tie-dye Champion Shrike. I think it's like a 170, not quite max weight. I don't even remember why I bought this. I just remember I saw the picture of it and it looked cool, but this was one of the first discs I ever bought, and it became a staple in my bag for a very long time. This was after I bought all those DX discs. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a Champion disc. I think the Shrike had just come out at the time. I wanna say this was also in 2018, and I decided to buy it, and it became a staple. But from the time of about 2018 to like 2020, I didn't really play very much disc golf. I was mostly playing college level ultimate, and so these discs saw use maybe once a month at best, probably quite a bit less than that though. Now, in order to find out when I got my first like real shipment of discs, when I was really actually getting into disc golf, not just these kind of either gifted to me or bought like one of them and used them on the course every once in a while. Oh, and actually I totally forgot. One of the discs I bought around the same time was this Buzz, this old Z Buzz. I actually do not know what run this is. I haven't been able to find one that looks like this. So you might be able to tell me when I bought it based on the stamp. I really haven't seen anyone like it. I would have thrown it, except for I don't think it's max weight, so I don't really have a reason to throw it. But you can tell I was very new to disc golf when I bought this, because I'm gonna cover up my phone number there. I wrote the flight numbers on the back of the disc because I did not know what a Buzz was, and I wanted to remember how it was supposed to fly when I threw it. On to my first real order, when I really started to get into disc golf. We can find this old picture that I have saved in my Snapchat memories, which has a picture of Azula as a baby. Look at her now, she's so cute. But you can see in this picture, from top left to bottom right, we have a red Nova, that AVR that I talked about. So I guess I bought the Judge before the AVR. We have a blue Sidewinder, a yellow green Zone, a pink and blue Nova, and then this green Mako 3, that's a factory second. Now the Mako 3 is actually a disc that I have in Ellie's bag now. Once again, you can see I wrote the flight numbers on the bottom of the disc and wrote Mako 3 on the front of it. We still have a couple of these on the wall. So we have this Nova right here, which is cracked. You can see right here. That I threw against a tree at Ellicott Creek Park, and so it is now a wall disc. And I haven't thrown a Nova since I cracked that on a tree. Like I said, the AVR is in my garage. The Zone and the other Nova, the red Nova, both are in different bodies of water. And the Sidewinder actually, up until recently, was in my bag for years. I remember it was a disc that I thought was kind of stable and then learned how to throw, and it became less stable for me. But I actually still have it right here, my old Sidewinder. Very used, very loved. It is now a backup roller disc for me. Now, I was able to find one more picture in my early days of disc golf. This will be the last one that I'll actually go over specific dates where I acquired things, just because I find this to be very interesting. This was like very, very early in my disc golf playing career. These are the first discs I literally pretty much ever ordered. The last one, I don't know if you can see it, that was on April 22nd in Geneseo. The next one, this was after I had left school, graduated, and I was back at home in Buffalo. And you could see how excited I was that it came in 2 days early. This was on May 24th, Buffalo, New York. So not too much later, I started getting into disc golf once I had finished all my exams and very quickly started playing a bunch. And also at the same time, I bought a practice basket, which I used a lot, and I actually still have in my garage. I use to this day. It's a little bit worn, but still in good condition. So now we have a Rock 3, a Rock, a Wraith, a KC Pro AVR. This is 2 T-Birds and a Firebird. Now we still actually have many of these as well. The Firebird is up here on the wall, still being displayed. The T-Bird as well, one of them is on the wall. This was the lighter T-Bird, the flippier one. The other T-Bird in the picture, this yellow one, I threw into the woods, was never able to find it, and it seems like someone took it. I had a bird drawn on it since it was a factory second, and I guess someone thought it was cool and decided to steal it, so I never saw that again. That green Rock 3 is still right here with the stamp wiped off. I use that very much. In that red Rock, still here, still in actually pretty good condition. This thing held up pretty nicely over the years. KC AVR, still in pretty good condition. Had to go digging around to find this one, but may have to have this as a keepsake since I've been able to hang on to it from that original box. For the life of me, I have no idea what happened to that old red Wraith. I knew I had it fairly recently, so it's possible I misplaced it somewhere, but it's also possible I gave it to someone or sold it. As a stand-in, I also have this Garrett Gurthie, I believe this is a 2021 Tour Series Halo Wraith, and it is very domey and very overstable. I don't really throw Wraiths anymore, especially a Halo Wraith, just because I'd rather throw a Destroyer, so it's on my wall, but I think this is one of my favorite discs I owned in that period of my disc golf career. Now, one more disc to kind of show off from that era. Actually, I have two. One is this old Star Destroyer that I bought a very long time ago, I believe at Dick's Sporting Goods. It was the Saki-Bot Destroyer, so whenever they were coming out with these, I thought it was the most overstable thing ever. Couldn't get it to fly very well at all. It was just basically my overstable disc. I didn't know anything about it. I thought the Star Destroyer, like Star Destroyer, was the name of the disc, not Plastic Thin Disc. And not too long later, I eventually bought, along with another disc that I lost in the water very quickly, I think within weeks of me buying it, I also got with that this pink Ricky 2-time Destroyer, which as you can see is very beat up, very well worn. I use this so much throughout my career as a forehand disc, and eventually I decided to retire it, and it sits on the shelf. But I've thought about bringing it back. It's just a very, very good disc for me, but kind of dates back to my early days of disc golf, so I'm not sure if I'll ever get rid of it. Now, before we jump into the more like interesting discs on their own without any sentimental value, I will go through my first 5 ace discs. I believe after this point I kind of stopped counting just because I didn't really care as much anymore. But my first ever ace was at a summer league in Buffalo. It was the last day that I was going to be playing in that league because I was about to move to Rochester. It was an F2 pig, and funny story, I really wanted to get those pro pigs that Ricky used because I was trying to copy all the Innova Pros because I used all their discs, and I couldn't get my hands on them, but I bought a bunch of these R Pro pigs. I still even have 2 old ones that are pretty much completely unused because I bought a bunch of them, then realized that I wanted the Tour Series ones and started throwing those because these became so flippy so quickly. And of course you can see on the back, since it was my first ace, ace number 1, hole 15 at Ellicott Creek Park, and this was on, looks like July 27th, 2021. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I recreated that exact same ace when I went to Ellicott Creek Park recently when I was visiting town. I just played through, hit the exact same thing. My other aces are with 3 other pigs, these time the actual Tour Series one, and a AVR, Halo AVR. So for this one, we're still counting them. This is ace number 2, hole 4 at Basil Morella, and Ellie signed it because she saw that. That was one of my first, that was my first round of the year a couple years ago. Then we have ace number 3 at hole 5 at Denison Park in Corning, New York. We have ace number 4 at Houghton College. This is the open course. And you can tell I already started to lose count because I wrote ace number 4 on here when it clearly was at least ace number 5, but that was Ellison, hole 18 in 2023. And then literally a month and 10 days later, we aced hole 16 at Parma, which would be the current long to short layout. I actually jammed it into the side of the basket. I'll put a picture up of the actual picture of when that happened if I can find it. After that, I kind of stopped counting aces. I've aced a bunch of times with my Toros and stuff. Interestingly enough, never aced with anything higher than a 4-speed. Still waiting for that to happen. All right, so now we can go over what's left of the discs on my disc rack behind me, because I am getting rid of very many of them. This disc I totally forgot I even had. This is a beat up Electron Firm Envy that I had in my bag for quite some time. That's kind of sitting on the sidelines now just because I don't really throw Envies that much anymore. But this thing was such a clutch disc for me for so long, and I owe it very many strokes out there. So just kind of wanted to point this out because this was a very important disc for me for many years. Now, as many of you know, I love to bag these old Calvin Heimberg 2020 Destroyers, which are becoming increasingly harder to get your hands on. And I'm really hoping I can find a run that has the same magic that those do. But I do have a couple backups. I've thrown a couple of them into the water, so not many left. I have these 2 blue ones that were kind of my go-to bombers for a very long time until they both became extremely flippy, and too many times they turned over on me way too much, especially in some like very lightly breezy conditions. So I've kind of retired them from the bag. Maybe they could find their way back in at some point, but they're kind of sitting on the sidelines now. And we have one left over that can still hang with it who's still overstable and can get beat up, so we can cycle this into the bag. I'm kind of hoping by the point this one goes through and cycles through the bag, I'll either find a replacement or have a manufacturer sponsor so I don't have to do this anymore. I also have this OTB Open Destroyer, which was actually the first disc I ever threw 500 feet with. It was a little bit of tailwind, but I did throw 500 feet with this disc, and it was the first one ever, and this was before I was even sponsored by OTB, so clearly it was meant to be. And this is a 170, so not quite max weight. Interestingly, I have tried to put this in the bag and make it kind of like a forehand disc, but I don't know, something about it just never really felt that good for me, but it is a disc that I hold dear. We have a couple interestingly older discs here. Right here, this is a 4-time Rock 3, which interestingly I didn't buy when Macbeth was on Innova. I got this a couple years ago at a charity fundraiser doubles tournament. I believe there was, it's a base, I forget who it was, and I wish I remembered right now, but I just can't. Basically, these people went around, they had like a relative who'd passed away who was a disc golfer. They go around, put on this tournament, you know, do fundraising for some foundation, and they also would give away prizes of like old discs that they owned. So this was one of them, an old 4-time Rock 3 that caught my eye when I had like a CTP or something, so I got that. And then also recently picked up this 4-time Macbeth Destroyer, which maybe I'll do a video on at some point. I haven't thrown it that much. It's pretty overstable, but I wanted to see what all the hype was about because people seem to really like these things. So maybe I'll look into it a little bit. But this old Star plastic definitely feels different, like kind of stiffer. The rim definitely feels stiff. And then another disc that I just had to get my hands on when I had an opportunity to. This is a 11-time Firebird. It's definitely way different feeling than the current iteration of Champion plastic. It's a lot like gummier and tackier feeling. I honestly really like it. It might just be because the disc is very old. I haven't found a reason to put it in my bag just because the Firebirds I have in my bag right now fit their slot really nicely. But I could potentially see myself someday throwing this thing, but this is not thrown very often. I mostly use it for field work. One other very interesting disc I have, this is a 2019 Tour Series Calvin Heimburg Destroyer. I want to say this is the first Tour Series disc he ever did, and I can't even remember how I got a hold of it because I didn't buy it when it came out, but I know for a fact these are kind of tough to get your hands on, and I don't really throw it very much just because it's kind of like flat and overstable. It doesn't really fit anywhere in my bag that well, but it's a really cool disc and it has a really nice foil on it with a good color. I also still happen to have a 2021 Calvin Destroyer in like pretty good condition still. I've barely even thrown it. You can see how bright the pink is on there. So I could put this in my bag if I want to. Still, you can see on the underside, it's still in pretty good condition. This thing is honestly pretty nice. And I feel like you don't really see a lot of these in this condition anymore. The last kind of notable disc from the disc rack is this really old rock. There was something written on the front of it. I can't remember, but I just covered it up with some Sharpie. I really don't even know where this is like truly from. All I know is I had a rock in my bag that I really liked, that it was during a league round. It kicked into water where I was never gonna get it back basically because no one fishes out of there. And I had a player in my card who was like, oh, I have some old discs that you can maybe come buy off of me. And I went by his apartment afterwards and he had this super old rock, which we've decided is well over 20 years old. I believe it's a really old DX rock. I threw it in my bag for a while and I'm really happy I didn't lose it because I do not want to lose it now. I'll try and cover up some name and phone numbers. It has kind of an old phone number on there, but something that's interesting on the bottom of it, I don't know if you can read that at all, but it says 56th Ace, and it has like a signature kind of under it that's kind of blurred out. So this was somebody's, not only is this disc incredibly old, this was someone's 56th Ace because they were still tracking them, I guess, and it says Hole 4 Jarnar, Jarnar. I think that's an N, maybe an M. I have no idea where that course is. I've never heard of it in my life. So if you have any idea where this person aced, I would love to know. But yeah, this was in my bag for a while. Super, super old disc. Really cool, kind of relic of the past, and now just kind of sits on my shelf. But maybe one day it makes its way back into the bag. Just like with the other older disc though, I'm kind of afraid of losing it. Now let's get on to the chair of old discs. We'll see if we have anything interesting. So of the discs that I'm putting in the mystery boxes, we have a couple of highlights. One is an interesting one. I bought this off someone's truck, I believe. I never really threw it. It's a 2021 Ricky Wysocki Sake Bomb Texas State Championship, or Texas State Champion Destroyer. Never really threw it that much, but I think it's a pretty cool disc, and so I'll be giving it away. Kind of like an older disc, kind of pretty cool. Maybe if you're a Ricky Wysocki fan, you might like this. We also have this Discmania Open Glow C-Line P2. I was throwing this for like a little bit at the start of 2024 when I was really trying to find a little bit more overstable throwing putter, and it's a great throwing putter, but it's just a little bit deep for my hand, for my particular preferences. So it didn't really go back in the bag, and it's actually a really cool disc, kind of a cool disc from that Discmania Open. I think whoever gets it will probably enjoy it quite a bit. On the topic of throwing putters, we have this AVR X3 with a stamp. I don't even know where it's from. I bought it off someone from like a used disc forum. If you go back and look at my old Vlogmas videos, when I first started doing YouTube, when I did Vlogmas, I did a video where I threw on a hole until I aced, and this was the hole, this was the disc that I finally aced with. So kind of a cool channel relic. So if you get this, you have a piece of the channel with you. This eagle is one of two. I'm keeping one of them, but I'm giving away the other one. This is just an old Barsby Eagle, I think 2021 or something. They're like really overstable, really nice. I don't really throw them anymore since I throw FD1s, but I think they're kind of hard to get, and this is a pretty nice one in decent condition. It has my name and number on it, which I'll black out, but yeah, really great disc. Relied on this for a very long time. So I think whoever gets it will be pretty happy. Another one that's pretty cool, this is Lights Out at the Lighthouse, which is one of the first tournaments I ever played. I believe I was playing MA2 when I got this disc. Never really threw it, just kind of sat in my garage for a while, so I'm happy to give it away to someone. And this is a Force, so a nice disc, a nice cool stamp on it, and kind of a bit of a piece of my very, very early disc golf career. So whoever gets this, you're getting something pretty cool. Another piece of my disc golf career is the Frommer Woods Meltdown of 2024. This was my first ever MPO win, and since I already have a trophy from that and I need a certain amount of disc to give away, I'm gonna give this away. I bought it during that tournament after I had finished, didn't know I had won yet, and yeah, it's a pretty nice buzz and pretty much brand new. I threw it like a tiny bit, so pretty cool disc. So I'm gonna package up all these discs into some mystery boxes to sell off. It's gonna be 50 bucks, 5 discs per box. First come, first serve. I have no idea how fast these are gonna go, so I feel like you should probably get them pretty quickly. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. All right, so I finished packing up my 20 boxes here. We have four columns of 5 here, and you can see that Destroyer I just talked about. We have a nice brand new ESP Buzz, a Thomas Gilbert Votum, my Berg that I'm not the happiest with, but that's a great disc, it's just not my favorite disc. So I'll actually go through one of them and kind of get a sneak peek at what these boxes are gonna look like and what better box to start with than the Berg box. So in this particular box, if you were to get this one, you would get my K1 Soft Berg used on the channel. We have another disc used on the channel. This is the 2024 Robot Chicken Chris Dickerson Buzz. We have a Calvin Heimberg Helio Vela, a Halo Savant, and a brand new, unused, unthrown Evelina Tour Series Destroyer. Most of the boxes are gonna look something like that. I tried to put putters in mid-ranges, and a lot of them, there's gonna be a couple that won't have a putter or mid-range in them, but you'll probably get like 2 Destroyers, so you're probably actually getting more your money's worth than the ones with putters and mid-ranges. But I tried to keep them a little bit well-rounded, so if you're interested in that, again, go to tylertd.com, or if you just wanna buy some singles of discs, go to otbdisc.com, use code CHILLY at checkout for free shipping. Helps me out, helps you out. Anyway, that's my collection. Those are the discs that I'm getting rid of. Get them before they go, because I feel like they might go fast. I'll see you next time. Peace.